When I was 17 years old, I decided what I wanted to do with my life, and that was to be a playwright. And I only had one problem with my decision, which is I had to explain that to my dad. So I figured, I better dig into this and make sure that it's really what I want to do before I have that conversation. So I went and got an internship for the summer at a theater in the DC area where I grew up called the Studio Theater. And it was a fantastic time, and after doing that whole thing, I knew for sure, this is what I want to do, this is what I want to work on. So I had the conversation. I went to my dad and I said, Dad, this is what I want to do. I want to be a playwright. And he listened nicely. He thought about it. And he said, okay. Then a few hours later, he came back and he said, I think you should think about a few other things, just in case the playwriting thing doesn't work out. And in particular, I think you should think about engineering. You might be good at engineering. That might be a good career for you. And I found this program, this summer program, at Rose-Hulman Institute in Terre Haute, Indiana. Maybe you should go to that. Yeah, I met some folks in the elevator from there. So thank you for telling me how to pronounce that, first of all. So I said, okay. Because, a 3-week program over the summer, all 17-year-old boys, away from our parents, can't be that bad, right? And yeah, it was great because all of us were there, and it was really cool to be on my own. But I remember the first day I showed up there, and I walk into that room with 150 other boys, and I look around, and I hear the conversations that people are having, and I start thinking to myself, I'm not in the right room. These people are not talking a language I understand. They're not talking about things that I get. And unfortunately for me, the very first day of that camp, they decided that it would be a good idea to break us all up into teams of 4 people. And so I got assigned to my team of 4 people. And for the next 3 weeks, we were going to work on projects. It was all a project-based camp. And so I was with this team of 3 other guys, and we got our assignment. And the first thing we did, of course, is we sat down these are engineering students, right? These are eventual engineers. So the first thing they started talking about is solutions to the problem. And within the first 30 seconds, I'm pretty sure they figured out that I was not going to be of much value for the next 3 weeks. And in the next minute after that, they told me I was not going to be much value for the next 3 weeks. And then a minute after that, they said, you know what? We got this. You're good. So I was abandoned by my team on the first day of engineering camp. And I went back, and unfortunately, that was not a time when we had Netflix where I could just stream something or waste my time for 3 weeks. I had to do something. And so as I looked around, I decided that I was going to have fun at this engineering camp. In fact, I was going to become the cruise director of this engineering camp. And so I started organizing ultimate frisbee competitions. We had poker night. We had an open mic fun thing to do. We went spelunking in a local area. We had a great time. And I was coordinating all this stuff because I had nothing but time, because I wasn't working on any projects, right? And the last day of this engineering camp rolls around, and we have our presentations. And so it's kind of everybody up on stage and the other 3 guys on my team, and I'm kind of, standing in the back, pretending like I'd done something while they present. And they had awards and stuff, and we didn't win. Our project didn't win, thank goodness, because then I would have felt really guilty for winning when I didn't do anything. But afterwards, they had a few individual awards. And one of the individual awards they had was something that they called the Good Citizen Award. And it was voted on by the 150 students that were there at this camp. Now, because they'd broken us all up into different groups on day 1, a lot of these teams didn't really get to meet anybody outside of their group, except the cruise director. Everyone knew him. So I ended up getting the most votes, and I won the Good Citizen Award at this engineering camp, and I was so excited. And I came back from the airport, and my dad's standing over there, baggage claim, picking me up, and I'm walking excitedly with this big smile on my face, and he's watching me with a big smile on his face, because he's thinking, hey, my master plan worked. This kid's not going to be a playwright anymore. He's going to be an engineer and actually make some money, right? So he's thinking his plan worked. I have this big smile on my face. I go up and I say, Dad, I had a great time. He goes, so you're going to be an engineer? And I said, no, but I won the Good Citizen Award. And he said, I don't know what that is, but okay, that's great. And it was years later that I told this story to someone, and they said, so you went to engineering camp for 17-year-old boys and you won Miss Congeniality. And I said, yeah, I suppose that's one way to look at it. But what was interesting about it is that it taught me something about me. And what it taught me about me was that I was better at people than I was at numbers. And that's a pretty awesome thing to learn when you're 17 years old. Because over and over, since that point, I've realized that there's a lesson in there that powers so much of whether we're successful or not. And the lesson is that the people who understand people always win.